and I quote, "The church is not a hospital."
It's not, though. We have to be careful when we define things. The only thing that gives a definition any meaning is the limitations of it, the borders of it.
But we want you to get connected to the source.
Right.
So that way, the same level of enlightenment, awakening that we're experiencing, and we're coming to the conclusion of us.
We have to decide whether God is our source or not. There have to be some people who decide that that's okay and do it anyway. And that's what we're trying to do.
That's not what the hospital does, though.
No.
It's the exact opposite. And so if we are presenting this opportunity for you to be salt and light, all the ways that we are embracing the identity that Jesus placed on us.
Filled with grace and knowledge, wisdom.
Right. And so then when we send you out there, you're exposed, you're malnourished.
You're a good patient and a terrible soldier.
What if I told you you were meant for something more? And what if at first sight your birthright was inked in blood? And what if dominion was written in big bold letters? And what if we shouldn't just occupy but overcome? And what if the observation of opposition was us? Antikemi, the podcast.
And we are back. You are tuned in to the Antikemi podcast. And my name is Jonathan.
I'm Schulz.
And we'll be your host. It is, like we've said before, our absolute privilege that you're tuning in and that you're hanging out with us. But I want you to stop what you're doing. Click the like button.
Please.
Click the notification bell. And subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. And also, drop a comment down. Introduce yourself. Say what's up. We want to get to know the people that are interacting with this platform. It's just how we are able to better tailor content about some things that maybe might interest the people who are tuning in.
For sure.
That's important to us. We're not just trying to be an echo chamber. We want to wrestle with some topics, some things that might not necessarily be controversial for controversy's sake, but we're not shying away from that. We're trying to live Antikemi.
Yeah.
In opposition to. And so, yeah, your engagement is going to be super helpful. And so, yeah.
It's super helpful for getting the message out there, and then it's super helpful. I mean, it really helps with the algorithm, but then I'm looking forward to starting to hear people be like, either I'd like to hear this topic, or I'd like to hear some spicy, input from people who maybe want to challenge a take or whatever. Eventually, Lord willing, we get enough of a audience built up, we'll do a live and have some convos. And
that would be fun. I would absolutely love to do an Antikemi podcast, live event. We do something similar with the huddle.
Yep. Specifically for our church.
Yeah, right.
But it'd be fun
to kind of broach that out. I've always enjoyed kind of watching podcasts that I follow do a live event.
Yeah.
I think it definitely does throw me off a little bit when they have the handheld microphones.
The little
the
little TikTok fuzzy thing.
Oh, well, actually, I'm just saying just a regular handheld microphone as opposed to a podcast mic when they're sitting down in a studio or their office or whatnot. But
we're not Twitch people.
Yeah,
we're not that hip.
No, not quite, not quite yet. But we're getting there.
We're getting there. But
we're getting there, and so
I'd love to see just a little more conversation and engagement. And then on the flip, I want to say at the beginning, because I always forget to say it later, if you're catching this later after you, please give it a like, give it a comment, all that. That's just like one of the simplest ways you can really help us get this out to whoever needs it. But after you do that, put us on 1.5 or 2 times. And, I'm going to be honest with you. I listen to most podcasts. I don't watch most podcasts. It's awesome if people do. I do tend to listen to them on YouTube. For whatever reason, we're on the podcasting apps, but I tend to catch them on YouTube. But I tend to listen, and listening a little sped up helps me. It helps my brain.
It does.
And I think it helps a lot of people.
It does. That is a hack.
Yeah.
It's a tool that I think a lot of people don't realize is there. But yeah, if you click the little gear icon on YouTube, it gives you, like, you could scroll down and it says speed, and you can click and you can see it's going to automatically default to 1 times the speed. But you can go to like 1.25, 1.5, I believe 1.75, and up to 2.
Right.
I think they just introduced for YouTube Premium users, I think up to almost 4.
Which I like.
That's super
some
fast.
people's brain
I
goes
can't
really
go.
fast,
I can't go.
or the
that fast.
content is really slow.
Right.
Because I think we're on the slow side. I don't know how you could listen to us on 4. Hey, if your brain works that quick,
You're gonna finish a podcast in about 20 minutes.
that'd be amazing. I do know that. So this is just a side tangent, but you got me using Speechify all the time. And
No, you got me using Speechify.
well, I told you about it.
Yeah.
But then you started like really, really using it
All
and got
the
me
way in.
inspired. Like, it was a cool gadget to me, but you were like, dude, it's life changing. And then I was like, wait, why hadn't it changed my life? So now it has. So
I use it for everything.
yeah, so I've gotten there too. So one of my favorite features on that, and I'd love to see every platform pick this up, is the what is it? Every 100 words or every
Yes.
oh no, it might even be every 900. Like it.
I'm not quite sure, but it's a built-in AI feature.
Yeah.
That every 100+ words, it gradually increases the speed. It gives your brain the chance to catch
That's
up.
crazy.
And like you can start at 1, and then 15 minutes later you're on 2, and you don't realize it.
No, and what's weird to me is I'll be listening to something for, a couple hours. I'll hit pause and go do whatever. I come back the next day or whatever.
It's like on
It's a message in
2.8.
tongues. Like, what is happening? Oh, yeah. And I got to go start back down
Right.
to.
It's the phenomenon of like the frog in the pot.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, so you don't even know, like, you are gradually getting
Your brain
higher.
doesn't hear it happen.
But it's a great tool to show how our brain is actually able to keep up, but you can't start there. You have to gradually build your way up there. But it doesn't take long or much for you to be able to gradually work there. So, yeah, it's a great tool.
It demonstrates a lot of things. It even demonstrates how conditioning works. And you know what I mean?
Here you go.
No, but
I love it.
It really does. But it also demonstrates how exercise works.
Uh-huh.
It demonstrates how conditioning works. But also, like, if you're a person that like thinks, I can't get used to TikTok or what. Yes, you can. You're just not used to it. I'm not saying you should, but it's an interesting thing to realize that the brain is actually super adaptable. And the more that you make it adapt to things, the more adaptable it becomes.
Especially if you start when you're younger. Like, my mom used to always say, like, it was so key for her in memorizing scripture when she was younger.
Yeah.
And, like, kind of like habit stacking. Like, she would
Yes.
do it, like, washing the dishes. Or she would do it when she's doing another, like, chore.
Yes.
And so it, like, built whatever type of muscle. And she's able to, like, recall it to this day. But it was because, she utilized her youth to really, really hone in on, like, the neuroplasticity of our brain. Our brains are plastic almost. So, like, they can, like, really, really adapt. And the best part about it is this, is that the bad habits that they learn, you're able to still reform
Right.
and relearn other good habits.
Right.
Don't let anybody tell you that you're not. It's too late for you to make a
Well,
change.
that was going to be my comment about it. It's true. There's a huge advantage up until the time you're about, I think it's around 16 that it starts to, basically you start to solidify. And before 5, it's like crazy. Like you can just take in any amount of information, which is why early childhood trauma is so formative. But on the flip, don't be discouraged. It's actually quite literally never too late to start working on upping your neuroplasticity, and it can do nothing but benefit you. It can do nothing but help you avoid the effects of dementia. And they start now in some studies with late stage dementia patients. We're talking 4th stage, and even later, just like really late stage. And they just start helping them work on their neuroplasticity, and it's just literally never too late to get some better cognitive function. You can do it.
You can do
It
it.
just happens slower, bit by bit. It like the older we are. Once you're past 36, it's gonna happen relatively slowly,
Right.
Unless you've been working on. Like I'm blessed in the sense that I do have more neuroplasticity than the average bear, and that is because of a lot of things connected to when I was young. But hey, it's called an advantage, not. It's an advantage. It's not like an exclusive opportunity.
Yeah.
It's just I got a leg up on it.
No, you absolutely do. I love it. I love it. I love it.
All right, that rant.
We wasn't even going to talk about that, but I'm happy we did.
Where are we?
You know what I do want to talk about, though?
Oh, Jesus.
There's something
There's no
that
telling
you
with you.
said that you just dropped out of nowhere.
I did not.
You did. I have it. We have the video evidence.
What?
Yes, sir. We have the evidence.
I did not consent.
And you dropped something out there, and it was a phrase that, like,
Was this Sunday?
it wasn't this Sunday.
Okay.
It's been a little while since you
Okay.
said this phrase.
Well, then I have no idea. If it wasn't today.
And you've kind of mentioned it a couple times after that. And you like doubled down and tripled down on this statement. And I'm sure it kind of hit people in a way that was like, okay, explain.
That is usually when I double and triple down.
You know what I mean? Like, this is not what I'm used to hearing.
Yeah.
And like the whole conversation about the neuroplasticity actually fits in because
Okay.
it's like you have to relearn some connections or break some connections on what you've always understood
Yeah.
this thing to be.
Yeah.
And you're hearing somebody in a position of authority, pastoral authority,
Yeah.
making a very, very strong statement.
That challenges presuppositions.
Completely challenges preconceived notions.
Yeah.
And I just want to talk about it.
Good
Like,
Lord,
I
I'm
think
uncomfortable and I don't even know what it was.
you said, and I quote, "The church is not a hospital." I'm going to let it just hang in the
Did I
air.
do that?
Yes, sir. I'm going to say that again. And I quote, "The church is not a hospital."
It's not, though.
I agree. But
But
I
they
am going
don't.
to say, when I first heard it,
You went, pastor's having a stroke.
I said, okay, explain.
Say more right now.
Right. Because it's all we've ever had painted for us. In fact, it was a very high bullet point in the the brochure of soul winning.
Yeah.
Come, get your wounds healed.
Yeah.
This is the emergency room. This is the place of safe. We're doing surgery here. There's heart transformations happening here. Lay your burden down. All of the analogies, all the church isms we've used over the years to get people in the building, to get healing. And here you are saying, nope, that's not what we are.
You would be a nightmare as a skydiving instructor. Because I feel like a lot of times we're just barely getting to cruising altitude in this thing, and then you just kick me out of the plane.
Let's do it.
Just like,
because otherwise, well, speaking of that, see, you starting early today, sir.
Pot kettle.
Right. You also said something about that too. A lot of time, I don't even know if we can even get to this part because I definitely want to get back to the hospital.
Right. We're coming back.
I'm just gonna throw
the
this out there.
non-existent hospital.
Right, for later. You say a lot of times that we want God to deploy the parachute before we jump out the airplane.
Yeah.
And God's never going to do that.
Yeah.
Because the parachute would get caught up inside the engines and the plane's going to crash.
Right. Everybody dies.
True. Everybody dies. We'll get back to that.
Yeah,
that's so good right there, but we'll get back to that.
It is a good topic. Now, so if I remember right when I said that, I don't think that's the first time I've ever made that statement to our church, but I've noticed.
It was unprovoked, sir. It was unprovoked.
What are you talking about? It's been provoked by 50 years of evangelical church culture.
You know what? You're right.
But I have noticed with like certain statements like that the first time or two that I say them, nobody actually hears them. So I heard it. But I think, I can't swear on this, but I think that over the past 2 years, I've said that a couple of times from the pulpit. Yeah. Usually just throwing it in there. Mm-hmm. And typically with those kind of things, I've noticed where people have been, and I'm going to use the word again, systematically conditioned to have a particular perception of something. When it's first challenged, one of the first responses that I see, and I see it in myself all the time, so this is not me, I'm not like therapizing others, I'm talking about the human condition here, because I see it with myself all the time. But the first time that something's dropped out there that directly challenges it, or evidence that just flies in the face of that presupposition, your brain just goes, that's irrelevant. Or you tell yourself that you heard exactly the opposite of what you heard. Yeah. So a good example of that is if I said the church is not a hospital, a lot of people's brains went, right, church is a hospital. So it takes a hot minute to cut through just that layer.
Like autocorrect.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because obviously the mind is an amazing thing. Mm-hmm. And, you know, we say a lot about the ego on this podcast, and typically when we talk about egoic issues, we're addressing challenges connected to it. But I don't ever want to give the idea that we're vilifying the concept of the ego. I'm not using ego here as somebody's prideful. That's a different way of using ego, and that we'll vilify all day long. Don't be arrogant. But I'm talking about ego in the sense of like your perception of self, your understanding of your identity, and the way you are in the world, the way you show up in the world, or perceive yourself to show up in the world. That's an important construct. Without that construct, you can't function in the 3D realm. So, no matter how enlightened you get, no matter how much awakening you go through, you want to use some more kind of new agey terms, you can go through all kinds of ascension and all that, whatever. You still have to function in this realm while you're in a body. And so, in order to do that, you have to have some sense, some thought-based sense of identity, who you are in this world, and what your place in it is. But it is also something, if the Bible instructs us to be daily renewed in the spirit of our mind, to die daily and be transformed by being renewed in the spirit of our mind, then basically a significant part of the Christian walk in general, and certainly the spirit-led life, is going to be consistently confronting existential issues, having basically persistent crises of, because you are not the you that you function as in this world. You're much more than that. And you need to know that. Like, if you don't know that, let what I'm saying bother you. I am Meshulam Barrow Hirsch from, Grand Junction, Colorado. All my family are New York Jews, raised in Austin, grew up, on a farm in an intentional Christian community. That's an unusual life experience. Pentecostal preacher, father, husband, all these things that I am, and this I that is Meshulam Hirsch. Yes, there's validity to that and the story of that character and all of that, but that's not me. That is an expression of me. It's how God has enabled me to express myself into this dimension.
Yeah.
But God told the prophet, before I formed you, not when I formed you, before I formed you in your mother's womb, I knew you. I ordained you, and I called you a prophet. So there's a you that, and we talk about this all the time, a good example is to read Romans 7. You have to track every line very carefully to see which I Paul is speaking from, because he's got like several different eyes there that are speaking. The carnal nature, the God nature, the conflicted nature, the old man, the new man, they all show up in there. And in order to understand what Paul is saying, you have to track each sentence and go, which I is speaking here. And so bottom line is, when we get overly attached to it's overly protective of or overly comfortable with the attachments, the cognitive attachments that link us to the world around us in relation to that understanding of who we are. And I may need you to help me say this in a more approachable way. I think you know what I'm trying to say. That has to be challenged, or we cannot be transformed by being renewed in the spirit of our mind. So we're not vilifying it. It's not a bad guy. The ego is not the bad. It's a utterly necessary function of having to express ourselves into this dimension.
I love how you qualified that statement. Like, I don't think I could have put that better than that. You really laid out the reasoning behind why that statement is polarizing in one way, but it has to be expressed. And for the person who truly desires to be renewed daily, they want to really walk in the Spirit, right?
Yeah.
They're going to receive that in the way that it's meant and take it in and allow it to germinate and produce the fruit that it needs to. And you really won't have room to disagree once we even get into why that is a bona fide fact.
Yeah, can I just, maybe a bumper sticker might be useful here for somebody that's struggling with what even is he on about. Let me just say this. How are you supposed to show up as a new you if you're still completely attached to the old you? So if your understanding of the character you have to play in this realm, we all have to play a character. It's gonna have national and ethnic origin, family lineage, religious affiliation, political persuasion, life experience. We all have, that's not bad because it's necessary to move in this realm. But if my understanding of that story can't be challenged, how's a new story supposed to emerge? How's a renewed character supposed to emerge? It's no different than, Brendan prevails upon me every now and then to play his stupid, Roblox or whatever, know. And you go in the store and you get a new skin. Okay, I think this is actually a good analogy. I think I'm about to use a video game analogy that works. You go in the store, you get a new skin, or you get a new, what do you call it? Like when you have new clothes or whatever, you got new stuff for your character. But if I don't take that stuff out of inventory and put it on, nobody will know, and my experience of the game won't in any way be impacted. In fact, I could get we were playing a game the other day where you had to defend yourself with, the game's actually called Brain Rot, and it is, but you had to defend yourself with like this little I think it was a hammer or something. Anyway, you had this little, you could defend yourself, and but you could go to the little store and you could drop a little of the in-game money, not the Robux, but just the little money you earned in the game, and you could get like golden hammers and like powered up stuff. But then if you don't pull that out of inventory and use it, it doesn't, you can't defend yourself any better just because you have that in inventory. So that's what I'm getting at here, is to say, like, if it doesn't say just be renewed in the spirit of your mind. It says be transformed by the renewing of the spirit of the mind. So if the transformation piece is going to happen,
the renewal is non-negotiable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Bible literally says in Hebrews, when it's talking about the renewed covenant, in the English, it usually says new covenant, but there's a pretty good argument to be made that the Hebraic language around that would have been the renewed, Brit Hadashah, the renewed covenant. And it literally says, I think it might be Hebrews 5, I don't know, anyway, in Hebrews it says, the stipulation of a new covenant directly requires the removing of the old. So the writer of Hebrews is making the point to Jews who would be having a hard time letting go of certain aspects of Torah-based religious thought. A lot of that was very good, but some of it had to be challenged in the renewed covenant. And so the writer is making this statement: if there's a new covenant, that means there's one that's not there anymore. So if you update the software the firmware on your phone, it's not just that the new firmware is there. The old firmware is gone.
That's echoing Romans 7.
Go for it.
I mean, what it's talking about, for the married woman is bound by the law to her husband while he is living. But if her husband dies, she's released from the law concerning the husband. So then if while the husband is living, she is joined to another man, she shall be called an adulteress. But if her husband dies, she is freed from the law, so that she is not an adulteress, though she is joined to another man. Therefore, my brethren, you also were made to die to the law through the body of Christ.
Yeah.
So you are literally being transformed into the new creature.
Yes.
2 Corinthians, made in the image, of course, and joined to the body of Christ, so that you might be joined to another, to him who was raised from the dead, in order that we might bear fruit for God.
There it is.
So, like, we want the transformation. The transformation is the fruit that's being produced from this union.
And when Paul talks about husbands and wives, he's talking about Christ and the church, and he's talking about the spirit man and the soul man. I don't know if I should take that dive, but your spirit being the husband and your soul being the wife.
Yes. Yes. In proper submission.
Right.
Ooh, we'll go there one day.
Oh, my God.
We'll go there. We will go there one day.
That day is not today.
It's not today, but it's good, though.
Yeah.
It's so good.
We're already like, we've already told them church is not a hospital. We can't tell them that their spirit is the husband and their soul is the wife.
Oh, my God. Yeah. Stay tuned for that.
And your body is the mediator. So here's the thing, bro. When people hear a statement that doesn't fit with their egoic awareness. So now that I've spent all that, we've circled the county qualifying what we mean by egoic awareness and all that, what the Bible calls the flesh, which is not just your flesh and blood. It is that coupled with the awareness that exists within it. Because your spirit is your subconscious awareness, but the soulish awareness is connected to the flesh identity, the 3D existence. When that is challenged, one of the key defenses that your ego has is just to blank on it, just denial. I definitely didn't hear what it sounded like I heard. Because, and an example of this, because what I'm saying is maybe the first couple times that I said the church is not a hospital, before it either threw people into disarray or ticked them off or whatever it did, but before that, when I've dropped it out there every now and then, most people likely just either literally didn't perceive that I had said it, or in a nanosecond, their subconscious, went, did he just say, and the conscious mind just overrode it. Because that's a bad command or file name. Well,
it's good that you even have that level of awareness that that's something that is possibly happening. Yeah. Because you can easily get discouraged and just see the blank stares on somebody, and you can take that a certain kind of way of just somebody just, not trying to take heed of something that they don't agree with, and there's friction there, and you're going down a rabbit trail that's not even necessary to go down, because like you're saying, this is just something that is almost a defense mechanism, kicks in from the body, because it's like, no, this requires a level of action that I'm not ready to take. And so, no, we're shutting that down right now.
To that point, I don't know what your experience is. I'm almost never in my feelings in the pulpit. When I am in my feelings in the pulpit, I am so careful. I do not trust myself to be in my feelings in the pulpit. And an example why that is because your feelings are soulish. So that's where all my trauma lives.
Yeah.
That's where all, familiar spirits would speak to me there. Everything that could fall under the heading of hurt people lives in that if I'm in my feelings, right? If I'm doing it right, when I step into the pulpit, I am in the Spirit. And let me make sure people understand that I'm not just making a churchy statement there to say I'm in His Spirit. No, I'm in my spirit too. So I'm in my spirit, and my spirit is seated with Him in a heavenly place. And so it is the office speaking when I'm in the pulpit, the Spirit of God speaking through the spirit of a man. And the emotion then, because the wife is in submission to the husband, so the soul piece of it, where my soul comes into play in that moment, is that because it knows I don't get to be the lead dog right now. So it knows now I've moved into a supporting role. And so then my soul is able to connect and add the layer of emotion and humanity to what I'm saying so that my soul can reach for their soul. But really, it's His Spirit
That's doing
the work through my spirit, but my soul being able to connect to your soul or their soul creates a platform for the Spirit to do its work, right? So my soul basically in that case is a friend of the groom, the bridesmaid in that instance. So, okay, that's a lot that just got said, but whatever. But I'm not almost ever in my feelings in the pulpit. So when people give me all that blank and all that, it either doesn't register or I perceive it as exactly what it is. But then the second I step out of the pulpit and the soul comes flooding back, it's difficult to metabolize all that because now I am in my feelings. And now, what the heck? I was dropping, jewels from heaven. I know I was, because I know what they did to me when He gave them to me. And all the blank stares and all. So it's later that I struggle to interpret it correctly. But in the moment, it's almost always either something that's a non-issue, something I'm not thinking about, or I'm just like, yeah, no, that makes sense that they would be struggling to even perceive what's being said because it's too existential. If you tell a Christian who has for 40 years been parroting a line that was drilled into them, as you said, in the sales process when we're trying to get you in the kingdom, and it's all this very soulish, bring us your poor, bring us your huddled masses, Bring your wounds to Jesus, take your burdens to the Lord. And Jesus said it, come unto me, all you that are weary, heavy laden. And so you tell somebody who has had it drilled into them, basically they've been catechized in this idea, church is a hospital. And then they have drilled that into their children, their coworkers, new believers. They've been a part of that. And you tell them church is not a hospital, there's a pretty good chance that the first time or two their brain just goes, yeah, church is a hospital. That's right. Amen. And a place where we see this is when we fight with our partners. How often, if we take the time to unpack it with compassion and just being even slightly trauma-informed, we realize we weren't fighting about what either of us said. We were fighting about what both of us heard.
Hold on. Say that again.
Right?
Say that again.
Most of our fights with our partners, because for most of us, we don't hate our partners.
Right.
And we don't want to hurt them. So when one is fighting with the other because you said something terrible, and then we get into this back and forth, that's not usually, if we unpack it carefully, for a lot of us, we will find we were not fighting about what either one of us said. We were fighting about what both of us heard. Because when she said, honey, do you think you should eat that right now? I didn't hear my wife knowing that I get heartburn, that I'm trying to lose weight, that I don't sleep well when, I eat something stupid late at night, that she doesn't want to see me in pain. She doesn't want to see me have high blood pressure. She doesn't want to. I didn't hear my wife covering me. I heard, and I'm not going to name them, but other voices from when I was a kid that said things like, you're fat and stupid. You're always whatever. So I didn't hear what she said. I heard what they said 30 years ago. And I responded with 30 years of pain. I think for a lot of us, when the ego is confronted with something that pertains directly to all of these attachments we have that keep us grounded in our understanding of the world and our place in it, we have this initial response, right? Like an immune system response. And then if it gets past that, we often have a very defensive, like first our subconscious protects us and it doesn't even land. But then a couple or a few times in,
our conscious kicks in.
And then we have an incredibly overt defensive response. Yeah. And if we're very open to being challenged and all of that, then that might sound something like what you said. Say more. I'm going to need details.
Right.
Which is okay.
You know what makes a lot of sense to me now? Even hearing this, and man, that's so good. I really hope that somebody really listens to what you just shared, especially about how we conflict in a healthy way. Recognizing those things, those triggers being at play, so that way you can make adjustments. Because we're not going to get it right the first time, maybe the second time, but after a while, when you know better, you do better. You actually should do better, right?
Right.
But I got to thinking why we, number one, should not look at the church as a hospital, and why we tend to fight against it. And this is all packaged up leading back to, the death of the ego and the transformation of our minds, right?
Yes.
we don't go to a hospital typically to die.
Right.
We don't go there to die.
It's not a long-term care facility in most cases.
It's not. It's not meant for that. And so it's typically used for resuscitation. They're trying to prolong life. They have an oath to protect and do no harm.
Right.
Right? And so when we come to church, unfortunately, there is death involved.
Right.
It's kind of like a big deal. It's kind of like the first step.
Right.
Repentance is the absolute death
Right.
of me.
Yeah.
True fasting is the death of me. The death of my ego, myself, everything that I have attached myself to here on this earth. Yeah. And I'm saying, I'm laying it down. I am forsaking it. Abraham leaving Terah and all of his family and everything that he knew as a rich man.
Right.
And saying, I'm going to go because Yehovah has visited me.
Right.
Made a covenant, and I am going to literally die to everything. Moses had to die to everything that he had attached himself, been initiated in.
Right.
Inside Egypt. And it wasn't just once. It was in Egypt, and then it was in the wilderness.
Yes.
To go back and free the people.
Yes.
And you could just go down the list of just character after character who had to experience that level of death. And if we are advertising the place where people should be dying to themselves,
right,
and then being resuscitated and renewed by Christ, we're doing people a disservice. And we're like, well, it's really a picture of the American church in a lot of ways. Of like, yeah, come here and let's keep alive your ego. Yeah. We're going to show you how you can live longer with this disease.
Yes.
This heart condition. Yeah, we know you have a irregular heartbeat. We got medicine for that, though.
Yeah.
We got a growth track.
Yes.
To give you. We have small groups that you can be invested in. We have community that's going to nurture those things. And I'm not talking down on any one of them. We use all of those resources and tools to help protect the flock, feed the flock, build the flock.
Yeah, we say all this stuff too.
Right.
And do it.
But when we package what the big C church is, and it can't be Johns Hopkins.
Right. So, I mean, the way you just described it, that's a brilliant observation about somewhere you go to die. In a sense, you could make the argument from what you just said that the altar, at least at the church, has more in common with the hospice than the hospital, because we're there to facilitate a healthy transition. Right?
That is really what our job is. A healthy transition.
Yeah.
Right.
What does dying look like under the best circumstances we can provide?
Dignity.
Right.
Care. You
Someone
don't have
covering for you.
Yeah.
You don't look, you're not humiliated. Because it's different to be humbled and humiliated. All those things, right? So you just laid out a brilliant, that was like one aspect that right there, just by expressing that one idea of a place to die, and yes, be reborn, but just by laying that out, you've already challenged the concept of using a broad sweeping phrase like the church is a hospital. We have to be careful when we define things.
Come on. Come on.
Because definition, the only thing that gives a definition any meaning is the limitations of it, the borders of it. So
That's good. That's good.
that's why I don't say, I mean, if I do, I try to catch myself. I don't say I'm ADHD. I hear people say that all the time about whatever they've got.
You know, that's true. I don't hear you say that.
I really try not to.
You reference ADHD
Yeah.
a lot,
Yeah.
but you've
It's
never.
It's a
once-
factor.
Yeah, I've never heard you ever identify that.
But I see people who make it their whole personality,
Yeah.
and they don't usually know that they're doing that. But I see the disability that defines the borders of their existence. That's problematic if you're a person that's committed to growth and transformation. So we need to be careful with definitions. Words are spelled for a reason. And so we don't want to be, we don't want to be overly attached to identities because they are, what gives them meaning is their limitations. And the fact that you are Jonathan Brewster only means anything insofar as it describes what that means that you're not. It says you could only come from one family. You could only come from, you know what I mean? All of that everything that gives us identity in a definition like that has to do with the limitations of it. So, I'll just pull the Band-Aid off so that people can, if they're holding their breath, that you can relax a little. I did follow up that statement after doubling down on it a few times by saying, we definitely have a hospital.
You did.
I didn't say we don't have one. And if you need one, come on.
Yeah.
But when we say that we are that, and what I wound up telling the church that day is maybe the fact that we have made that identity so central to our pitch could have something to do with why we produce perpetual patients.
Come on. I believe you painted a picture of us walking around in our jammy jams,
I did say jammy. I was salty that day, wasn't I?
holding our IVs
Right.
as we're sauntering.
Not sauntering.
Sauntering.
I did not say sauntering.
Good old high dollar word for you intellectuals out there. Sauntering down the hallways.
You lie so easy.
Yeah, just like down the hallways, pushing the IV
Yeah.
forever.
In our no-slip socks. And so that connects directly to what is a hospital good for? Because what a hospital is really good at is crisis intervention. Mm-hmm. A hospital's not typically great at long-term care. When they have to, they do it. But they're not typically great at long-term care. They're definitely not the best at transition for people that are dying.
Yeah.
They're not the best at that. They're way too overcrowded, overloaded. The institutional surroundings, they usually care, but it's hard for them to show that care in a personal way. They show it by, giving you more medicine or whatever. Like, you know what I mean? So they're not well equipped for a lot of things, not the least of which is therapy. Helping you come back and get stronger and learn how to walk again and regain some functionality and begin to move toward life after the crisis. They're not well equipped for that. And it's really I think one of the big challenges with our healthcare system that we see is that in a lot of ways, what Western medicine is best at is crisis intervention. If you are actively dying on the floor, you probably don't want to see an acupuncturist roll up. Like, I'm not, no shade, but like,
Oh my goodness.
you know, if you're in cardiac arrest,
Right.
you're not going to do somersaults of joy if a chiropractor walks in the room. I'm not saying those people couldn't do anything. For thousands of years, traditional medicine has provided a level of help and care in those situations. But people died a lot because once your body was like in full crisis mode like that, there was limited options.
Or you're dealing with infection. You're not properly.
Total sepsis.
Yeah.
You know, garlic will help, but maybe not quick enough.
Right. Right.
So, you know, the ancestors probably became ancestors quicker than you have to because they didn't have modern medicine.
Right.
So that modern Western medicine, man, it comes in clutch in a crisis. They can stick a needle in you and 3 minutes later, heart rate comes down to normal, blood oxygen starts to rise. The trouble seems to come in and I'm speaking as a layman here, but the trouble seems to come in when you start on this delicate balance, and in the church we talk about it as pharmakia, which is the Greek word for sorcery. And we got to be careful because your own brother is a pharmacist. I never want him to feel like he's such a faithful man of God and a pillar member and all that. This is never shade. We have doctors in our church. We have, thank God for it. But I still feel the need to talk about the fact that way of dealing with healthcare doesn't seem to be best at people getting a whole new lease on life and not being attached to machines and pill bottles. And because by nature, every treatment you get produces a need for counter treatments. And, you know, again, like when you've got a massive infection in your body, you're going to need a hit of heavy antibiotics or antivirals. Antibiotics are going to kill the flora in your gut, and that's going to unleash a whole slew of problems. So you need some kimchi after that, you know, and you need to lay off the added sugars, and so that the right stuff grows back, and eat a lot of fiber. And modern medicine doesn't seem super well equipped for dealing with that side of it, which is why we have things like doctors of integrative medicine as one of the specialties, right? Well, most of them do not work at a hospital, and it's not the best place for their work to be done. So Jesus said, I came that you might have life and that more abundantly. So he also did say he came for the sick, not the well. He is our physician. Like, I'm not saying the medical analogy doesn't work. It does. I'm talking about letting a particular aspect of that world define an identity that didn't even exist when God invented the church.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I struggle with it. I don't feel comfortable with that defining our view of what the church is, because I feel like in many ways we have said that for so long that is what we have become. And by nature of what we are, which is a faith family, We are a covenant family of believers. So this is a lifelong proposition. So if we are a hospital, then if you join us, you're stuck in the hospital, and you either wind up on paid staff
Come on.
or in a bed.
Or in the bed.
And that, if you'll stop and ponder, I think you'll have to agree with me that in the majority of our churches, that is what has happened, and that is what we have produced.
And having a hospital and being a hospital is two different things.
Completely. In one, you're a city because you have a hospital, which, as I said in that message, the Bible calls us a lot of things.
Like you said, a city set on a hill.
Right.
Does it call us to be the psych ward?
No.
Does it call us to be the emergency room?
Not even the maternity ward.
That
We've got them. We're a city. Of course we've got them.
That's good. That's so good.
And you know, it calls us an army repeatedly, or says we are members of the hosts of the Lord, the armies of the Lord. Troops got to have hospitals that roll with them, but they don't live in them, except for windows of time when they take hits. So I believe it'd be healthy for us as believers to break our agreement with, repent of, change our minds, repent of our agreement with that identity, and break our agreement with it, and let the Lord transform us by being renewed in the spirit of our minds to understand church has lots of hospital functionality, but that is not what we are. And until we allow the Lord to challenge that identity piece, we can't become anything else. And so if you're frustrated, if you
repent. Repent. No, for real.
If you feel, and one of the things that now I'm remembering a lot of stuff that I said in that message, and I stand by it. I think I said in that same message that sometimes we talk a big game in the recruitment phase. We're kind of like,
you did,
military recruiters. You know, come to our branch, man. We're jumping out of helicopters. We're, see the world, change somebody's life, protect the homeland, help us with conquest. And we say that stuff because people are looking for purpose. We say the stuff about hospitals because people are hurt, wounded, and sick. But we say stuff about all that militaristic stuff because people are looking for mission, for purpose. People feel, it's not just a God-shaped hole inside of people. It's also we have a mandate ringing out from the Garden of Eden. Rule over the earth, subdue it, expand the garden, be fruitful and multiply, fill it, cultivate it, tend it. There's a mandate, a divine mandate that's echoing in our soul. And we feel it. And going to our 9 to 5 is killing us because we come home and, we binge a Netflix show and go to sleep, get up and do it again the next day. And next thing you know, the only association our partner has for us is that they're always there when we're feeling disappointed and hopeless. And they're always there to tell us that there isn't enough bill money after all of that. And so next thing you know, we resent everybody that we're supposed to be, in covenant with. And now our life is falling apart. We're fighting. The kids are crying. And our lives fall apart around us, and somebody comes along and tells us we can be a part of SEAL Team 6. And so for a lot of us, it may not be the hospital that pulled us in. It may be we signed up, for the cause. I want to do something. Like, I'm sick of this.
Yep.
I don't want to be in this situation, and I know a lot of other people that I want to help get out of this situation. So sign me up, But the problem is that we've done a way better job of building the hospital and staffing it than we have the Army. And so what we've really done that I see is that the hospital staff have been given a uniform and rank. And so if you happen to be somebody that gets to be clergy or clergy adjacent, you might wind up feeling like, I signed up for a cause and I got to be in it.
Made it.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. That's purpose.
But if you're stuck in the open back gown, bleeding out in the pews twice a week,
right? Exposed,
ashamed because you still feel, and you kind of know you shouldn't still be sick. If you stay in a hospital too long, you'll be sick.
Yeah.
Like, how many of us do know people who went into a hospital for whatever issue and just stayed in Mississippi a day too long, wound up with staph infections, and again, no shade at the institution is set up to do a particular thing, and when for whatever reason that gets a little muddy, bad stuff happens. A lot of people died during COVID because they were on ventilators and there wasn't enough staff to flip them. It's that simple. They drowned. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm sorry if that's triggering, because I know for some people it will be.
Yeah. But it's true.
And it's tragic. And it is the nature of hospitals, because you can only do what you can do.
And it's so true of following the analogy with the church. Most churches are overworked, understaffed. And if you have that identity of just the few doing all they can to just try to run around, check vital signs, and answer all the different machines going off, comfort the grieving families, and you never, ever mobilize.
God help you if you're in billing.
Right. Because that's the other ugly side of it, too.
Right.
I mean, you
got to keep the hospital running.
Right down the line. And you have people, since we're on that, you have people who are upset because they go into the hospital and they receive a bill by somebody who...
I thought this was supposed to be a place that cared for people.
Right. Or you get a bill from a generalist.
Yeah.
Hospital generalist.
Yeah.
May or may not have had a single conversation with you.
Right.
Just may have
they just run the ward.
Slipped in,
yeah,
read your chart, made an assessment, took a couple notes, left, and submitted their bill.
Yeah.
So now you got hundreds of dollars from somebody that you didn't even see.
Yeah.
And you're upset now.
Yeah.
How often do people leave a church service feeling like something was taken from them?
Right.
And they receive really nothing in return. They're charged for it. And like, it was a culture that was established that was predatory.
Yeah.
We got to just, man, we have to change that mentality. I think if we come into the gathered group of believers with the identity intact that we're all in this together.
Yeah.
not from a place of misery loves company, but we're here to truly impact the world as salt and light,
Yeah.
not allowing ourselves to lose our flavor,
Yes.
our, what's the word you used recently? Our distinction.
Yeah.
Like, what makes us distinct?
Yeah.
That mentality is a total mind shift from us just dragging ourselves each week to just get patched up and then go out back into the world to get beat up all over again. And then I got to drag myself back to the ER, get triaged again to figure out how I can get my next fix, round of stitches, prescription for the next time,
Right.
and then follow the cycle all over again.
A lot of times picking up infections while we're in the ward.
Yes, sir.
So let's take this analogy a step further, and we're not just naming a problem here. This is all pointing at Antikemi. This is all pointing at a solution. We're challenging the system. That's why we're having this conversation. Antikemi is to lie opposite. So what we're really saying here is, in many ways, the institution of church is a product of the system of our culture.
Yeah.
And it has a role to fill within that. And that part of what religion is has nothing to do with the kingdom of heaven. And so what we're saying is, we're not people that I already deconstructed, I went through all that. I'm over it.
Yeah.
I'm in organized church. I'm in organized religion, if you want to put it that way. I am. And I'm giving my life to it. And so are you. So but what do you do when you are as woke as all the ones that have deconstructed and left, when you're just as dissatisfied with the machine, but you know your destiny, your purpose is all within the organism that the machine exists to try to serve or keep alive, you know. Well, what you do is you challenge the machine, but from within the organism. I am in the church, and I'm not going anywhere. But I don't want to serve the machine. I don't want to be Babylon or a daughter of Babylon. And so the only option people in our position have is to become, you used a word to describe me a couple of episodes back that surprised me. No one had ever said it to me before, but it made me think, and I couldn't disagree. You said, to some extent, you are a contrarian.
Oh, yeah.
And even though I wear identity lightly, to the best of my ability, that's true. Because that's literally what we're here to talk about.
Yes.
Yes, we do want to be a pain in the butt for this system. We do. And that even means we wind up being a burr under our own saddle.
From the inside out.
Yeah. And that's okay. Because to me, that's the only honest way to live in the tension, to actually thrive in Babylon without being of her, to come out and not be among her, but have to survive
That's what
there.
Daniel did.
That's right.
It's what the Hebrew boys did. You don't think it was annoying to the king's chief of staff or whoever he was in charge of transitioning these slaves into proper eunuchs, proper servants of the court? They had to be dressed, look a certain kind of way. I'm sure the clothes were matching, hairstyles were matching. I want y'all looking a certain kind of way. And here they come saying, that's fine, but we're not going to eat the allotment of the king's meat, and we don't want the wine either.
Right.
Allow us to infiltrate this system with something that we know is going to be countercultural and pleasing to our God
Yep.
from the inside. Daniel heard the decree.
Yep.
No man shall offer up any prayers to anybody for X amount of time.
Right.
He says, okay, I hear that. I'm still going to open my window,
Yeah.
face my window and bow down and pray. Because that's just what I do at the hours of prayer.
Even though I'm literally the governor of the head province.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
That's the character I'm playing.
Yeah.
But that's not the me that has to decide who to bow to.
Yes, sir.
Same thing with Esther preparing to go see the king.
Yeah.
You know, it causes you to move different. Now, I'm not even talking about the 3 days of prayer and fasting. I'm talking about way back before that, when all the young maidens were having to come in and be, presented to Ahasuerus. And Esther's process just wound up being completely different, bathing in the anointing for 6 months. No makeup, So it just causes you to have to move different. It doesn't mean you can't move in the system. It doesn't mean you can't move through this realm. It doesn't mean you can't be super effective, sometimes even be at the top of your game. It just means you're going to move different, and, you're going to be a pain to deal with.
Yeah.
And so, taking your analogy a little further about the way that people wind up stuck in this cycle of showing up, bleeding out, picking up infections, leaving sick, being on all that stuff. So let's take that analogy a little further, because what we're saying here is sometimes we sell people on the church by telling them it's a hospital. Sometimes we sell them on it by telling them it's the army of the Lord, or other things that are all true that we throw out there. But no matter what we told them before they got here, when they get here, for the most part, what we really are good at in the Western church is being a hospital, for the most part. It's one of our best tricks. And and so think about this. You join the military because the recruiter got you in, and you show up, and it's a hospital. But you've already signed in. Like, you've already said, and recruiters do be lying. So you already enlisted, but B, you already know the whole reason you signed up is because why do a lot of people join the military? Because they weren't going to make it without it, right? So you already know that other plan wasn't working. You didn't have the network you needed. You couldn't pay for college. So take that analogy into spiritual things. Yeah, you weren't making it without the Lord, and you weren't even making it without the church. So here you is. And so what are you going to do? You're going to be open-minded. Well, maybe this is what I need, because I thought I knew what I needed, and I was definitely wrong about that. So maybe this is what I need. Listen to all these testimonies. Listen to. And so you're going to show up and acquiesce for a while. And over time, one thing about hospitals is if you're there, you'll get sick. I mean, we all know this.
Yeah.
Like, I hope nobody's offended, but that just is how it works. Okay. But then let's take it a step further and say, maybe you signed up because you realized we're in a war. Because we are. And a lot of us, that is how we got here.
Yes.
Because not only were we in a war, but we were taking incoming fire, and we were losing bad. We were caught in the crossfire, quite literally.
Yes.
And so you come in, and what you leave the hospital with is a new gown, an armband, some medicine, and you get sent out into a firefight. Well, one thing I can guarantee about that, you'll be back. Because you just got sent into an active firefight in a gown with a pill bottle. So yeah, we'll see you. Like, keep the bed warm. You'll be here. And now you're not just caught in the crossfire, you're wearing the insignia. So you're an active target. So now you're taking a whole other level of hits. And you keep coming and you keep getting discharged with medical equipment and sent back into the battle.
Come on. Hold on. Let's see here. It reminds me of that with the recruitment process. I believe they go through MEPS first, which is the Military Entrance Processing Station.
What we call boot camp? This is before that?
It's part of that process.
Okay.
But before you even go through boot camp, they're sending you through MEPS because that's when they're checking you. Scoliosis.
Right.
You're seeing, are you even fit?
Are you flat-footed? Are you
right to go through this rigorous process of training? See, the Army has MEPS, but the Army is not MEPS.
Right.
The Army is going to take you through this process of examination and inspection and even giving you proper care. They may say, okay, you have astigmatism.
Right.
So we're going to issue you some glasses or contacts. Or you may have a shaving profile. So we can, document that. You have XYZ. You have a condition. Will this stop you from being able to serve or not? If it's not going to stop you, we'll notate it, document it, put it on file. Whatever medication that you need to be on, we'll know to be able to provide you with. But now, take your behind to basic training because we're going to go ahead and we're about to have you die, literally die to yourself. The point of basic training is to completely reform your way of thinking, bringing you to a place where when we give you a command, you don't go through the process of filtering yes or no. It's just yes.
Right.
We're teaching you how to think. We're conditioning your body how to go beyond everything
Push
that you
beyond,
thought.
Yeah.
We're telling your mind that your mind is so much stronger than what your body is. Putting you in positions and conditions that are going to stretch you beyond your limits. We're going to shave your head because you're going to conform.
They're breaking you down mentally, spiritually,
Completely
emotionally,
breaking you
physically,
down.
and rebuilding you.
That's not what the hospital does, though.
No.
It's the exact opposite. And so if we are, like you're saying, presenting this opportunity for you to be salt and light and to be as wise as serpents, harmless as a dove, like all the ways that we are embracing the identity that Jesus placed on us.
Filled with grace and knowledge, wisdom.
Right. We're doing ourselves a complete disservice to present this opportunity to take up your cross and follow me as if we just got to get you patched up and comfortable and just getting in this sleep number bed until he comes back.
Right. And occasionally rage at you for not being a soldier when we never took you through that process
at all,
or equipped you.
or equipped you. And so then when we send you out there, like you said, you're exposed, you're malnourished.
You're a good patient and a terrible soldier.
Can't do it.
And no, we have to stop. First of all, we're getting people killed right and left.
Yeah. That blood's on our hands.
And they switch hospitals in an endless loop. But the gowns are different.
Let me say something else too.
Better beds.
Right. People are conditioned by what they see on TV as the ideal situations as far as hospitals. That's not real life.
No.
Sorry, Grey's Anatomy is not real life. It's not. It's not. It's good TV.
Don't tell me House isn't real. I need House to be real.
My wife loves like these doctor shows, and she's like got me on a couple of them. But we were laughing the other day. We were watching something, and we were like, "This is so unrealistic." How much time the doctors and nurses were spending with each patient. I mean, like the long, drawn out conversations. I'm talking about just and multiple times a day.
Right.
Just like I'm like. I've stayed in the hospital, and I maybe saw the specialist once in a week.
Right.
Maybe once for a 30-second to 2-minute conversation.
Yeah.
And I was in the emergency room at first. Then I was in the intensive care.
Right.
So I'm in ICU.
Right.
5+ days and saw the specialist once.
Yeah, they didn't have a heart-to-heart.
You know, these people are having heart-to-hearts with the family and the patients multiple times in an hour episode. Like, that's not – but that's what they expect.
That's what they expect. But you literally can't run a hospital that way.
Can't. Neither can you do a church.
Absolutely not.
But they expect the pastor or whoever is a minister – to have that level of hand-holding through everything. Jesus didn't even do that.
No.
The disciples didn't do that.
Where you're supposed to get that from is your battalion. You're supposed to be in a unit.
Come on, talk about it.
And not that it's usually going to be hand-holding. But when you get through the firefight, and you're sitting in the trenches with the people who just had your back and you just had their back, yeah, man, you're going to get to pour out your heart.
Yeah.
And they're going to pour out theirs. And you're going to patch each other up, and you're going to read each other your letters from home. And that's where all that's supposed to be happening. It literally can't happen from the guy that has to keep 1,000 people alive.
Yeah. It's unrealistic. It's unfair. It's unwise.
On all fronts, to everyone involved.
Yeah.
And so, with this in mind, you know, one of the things about being in an I keep saying army. I don't mean that necessarily as a branch of the military. It's just an easy way to.
Yeah.
But being in the armed forces of a nation, where you really see the best of humanity shine in that realm, and where it pulls the greatness out of people, seems to be when what has them there is actually the cause. It's not we keep sending people off to die in wars that nobody can get behind.
Yeah.
And that they're still heroes for doing what it takes to try to protect all of us. But it's not going to pull the greatness out of humanity that you get when you have situations like, say, Geronimo and the way he handled himself, or the Minutemen.
Yeah.
Where they left a well-organized military where their paycheck was going to be regular and crossed the Delaware with bleeding feet with Washington because they decided it was worth everything to try to establish a new dream for them and their families. Obviously, a whole bunch of super unfortunate, unrighteous stuff happened in that context. But the point is, what drew the greatness out of these people was not the benefits package. The recruiter did not talk to them about what's the act that allows them to, get their college paid for.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
That wasn't it. That's not what pulls that thing out of people, that they become more than a mere human. It's when they're there because this thing is literally worth more than life to them. Yeah. And that's what we're selling people on. And, another example is the way the fighters handled themselves inside the Alamo, in what they absolutely knew was a losing proposition, fighting for a militia that had not been able to pay their checks in however long.
Yeah.
And there's an interesting analogy there because on the Mexican side of that, they also hadn't been paid in a very long time. But there was a whole different sales pitch that had gone on with them. They were extremely dispirited. They had overwhelming force, but they were extremely dispirited because they had been sold a dream that wasn't panning out. On the other side, you had these guys that were unbreakable because nobody sold them any kind of illusion. They just had a chance to stand for something that might be a better future in their view for them and their families. I know that right now, the whole debate around the modern state of Israel is raging. Regardless of where you stand on that, the stories that came out of things like the Yom Kippur War, when the 77th Syrian Tank Division came across the border with basically the whole Arab world riding, posse with them on the holiest day of the year while everyone was in the synagogues and
got behind enemy lines.
In a nation that is well known for having a strategic depth problem, where if you get a few miles into the border, you can cut that nation in half and wipe them off the map in a matter of a couple of hours. Yeah. So no matter where your opinions are on that, if you want to see some inspiring stories, there was an Israeli tank commander that was on his honeymoon.
I remember.
Who flew home, left his bride there.
Did his family meet him?
Yes.
With his uniform?
Yes.
At the airport? Yeah.
Flew home, went and got a broken tank because that was basically all that was left. Got it patched up and running. There were the other, I think they wound up with 11 and then down to 7 against hundreds. But the other guys had all had to check out of the hospital the other tank drivers were
Literally.
in the hospital
Yes.
and had to check themselves out. That's that moment where everything is on the line and you're not there for the benefits. You're there because of the cause. And that's what you signed up for, and that's why that pulls this thing out of the human spirit that is just there's nothing is impossible.
Yeah.
Because that's literally that's dominion. That's the God in people coming forward, even if it's a little broken and expressed through trauma, but it's still the basically the highest human potential that comes out of people in that moment. That is what we have on offer. We have a cause that is worth everything. If you don't like what is happening in the world, we exist to oppose that and offer an alternative. If you don't like the way that this world is crushing the defenseless, destroying the hurting and the wounded, stacking oppression on top of tyranny, on top of, if you don't like the way that the government is, when I was just telling Gemma a couple days ago, I said, because we were watching, what were we watching? We were watching, I may get in trouble for this with some of y'all religious folk. We were watching National Lampoon's Family Vacation, the Christmas, and there do be a couple scenes that get a little dicey in there, but we were watching that with the big kids, and there were a couple like patriotic moments out of nowhere. And it was funny watching my little Gen Z, almost Gen Alpha daughter, like, take that in. You could tell that for her, it was like, where did that, why has everybody got their hand on there? Like, what just happened?
Yeah.
And there's like, it's cutting to the American flag waving, and because the aunt, the old aunt or the old grandma, has dementia, and so when she goes to say grace, she says the Pledge of Allegiance, and there's a couple scenes like that. And I was telling Gemma, when that came out, it was just a different vibe with our culture as regards our country. We were still, we kind of believed in it. Like, we kind of believed in the whole, like, liberty and equality for all. And, there were people whose experience told them all had an asterisk on it, and their voices hadn't totally been heard yet. But a lot of us really believed that our country stood for something profoundly special. And I'm not saying it doesn't in any way, but for most of us that are under 50 at least, and I think for a lot of the ones that are over 50, since 2001 have just been such a brutal cascade of one disappointment after another.
Yeah.
To the point, if you have any modicum of self-respect, or like, it's like, how long can you live with an abusive spouse and not acknowledge, yeah, I don't like being treated that way. And that's not right. You're not a good person.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's not to say there can't be redemption. If you're that person, repent. But the point is, after a while, if you were raised with any amount of self-value, or you're going to start to be like, I don't think I like it here. Well, for most of us, the last 25 years have kind of produced that in us. We just assume that if our government is talking, they're lying.
They're lying. Yeah.
And the reason is because they always have been. Everything they've told us. I mean, it's a funny example, and stop me anytime you want, because I somewhere in this I crossed into full rant mode. But I did want to get into some of this because I believe this connects directly to what the first 2/3 of this conversation was. This piece is important because so many of us are disillusioned / feel that we have woken up.
Yeah.
So,
and what do we do with that?
What do we do with that?
Yeah.
So, when I was a kid, everybody in Austin started running on this platform of we're going to get Ben White and 35 fixed. So if you grew up in this area, I don't have to say anything more. But if you come from somewhere else, pick the intersection that it is in your city or the county road that it is where you are. But you know the one I'm talking about.
Yeah.
The one that every politician has got into office saying, I know the cones are so annoying. The potholes we're going to get them fixed. And we're going to have to raise the taxes just a little bit, but come on, y'all. We got to get this done. And for 25 years, you've been electing people off the back of that infrastructure promise, and somehow
nothing to show for it.
I mean, we passed Ben White the other day, and it's barely passable. Barely passable. Like, they've moved the cones far enough.
Yeah.
And it's been my whole life. And so that's like a local example. But on a broad scale, let's stick with the infrastructure analogy. For the last 20 years, I've watched one administration after another come in saying, I don't know what's wrong with these idiots that have been here for the last 4 years, the last 8 years, but we've got $1 billion or $1 trillion. I can't remember which it is. At a point, it's meaningless. The numbers are so big, but I think it's $1 trillion.
Talk about the deficit?
No, talking about the infrastructure problem we have with our crumbling bridges and overpasses.
Yeah.
And so one administration after another has said, hey, these idiots collected taxes for this, and they haven't done anything with it. Our bridges are still crumbling. Our overpasses are 20 years. Most of the overpasses in America were not, they weren't built to code to still be being driven on right now.
Yeah.
I mean, by years and years and years.
Yeah.
At some point,
something tragic.
That's going to catch up with us if we don't get something done. I mean, this is how third world countries become third world countries.
Right.
Because the money always winds up in somebody's pocket or in somebody's budget, not where they said it was going to be. And so multiple times, the money to fix our infrastructure has been pointed out and then disappeared. And we have all become so accustomed to it that I think for most people, it doesn't even really bother them anymore because low-key, so far, most of the bridges don't collapse. And also, that's just what they do. They take our money and they do something else with it.
Yep.
That's what they do.
Yep.
Am I in your viewfinder?
Yeah, no, you good.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, your head crosses over it a little
Sorry about that.
Good.
I'll go up. So, bottom line is, we have watched so many iterations of this. The 9/11 Commission report.
Yep.
Completely bogus.
Yep.
Totally bogus. If you don't know that, I'm sorry to tell you.
I'm sorry to tell you.
That's not a conspiracy theory. It was a conspiracy, though. They did conspire to completely gaslight us. They gaslit us so bad that they got us gaslighting each other.
Yeah.
I called people idiots for questioning that stuff because it bothered me, because it challenged my egoic. If I had to understand that we lived in a world where the government could produce something like that and it be a fabrication,
Everything else crumbles.
oh my God.
Yeah, yeah.
That doesn't feel safe at all.
No, not at all.
So for a good decade, I fought that. I didn't want to know that that was true. And you add the layer that the same people that say that there was another shooter on the grassy knoll. They say that the moon landing wasn't real. They say that the earth is flat. They say that. Why, though? Why is that?
So much misinformation tied in with actual real life truth. It's hard to decipher what's real and what's not.
Those people have lost faith in the system.
Yeah.
And can you blame them?
Nope.
The truth is that we know now that the JFK report also was completely falsified.
Yeah.
It's a matter of public record. So, we just tore each other's eyeballs out over COVID and the jab. And not only did they let us do that, they incited us to it, made sure we did it ad nauseum, and then one day they were just like, our bad. A bunch of that stuff was true.
Right.
Sorry. On we go.
Yep.
Oh, by the way, aliens are real too. So kids, like my kids, to fathom a world where we just believed the propaganda, we were totally on board with like America and all, they actually can't relate to it.
Yeah.
Because they came into the world too late to catch that.
It's like them trying to understand the world before the internet.
Right.
It just didn't exist.
It didn't exist.
Yeah.
Their whole world, we have been calling the big bad wolf because it's been out of the costume. We grew up with the costume, but our kids, it's been a wolf at the door, and they've known that the whole time. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So we're now in this phase where people are having all these awakenings. And I use air quotes not because I question the awakenings, but only because I am aware that the movie Inception really does describe the challenge.
Yeah.
And so being woke or having woken up, being awakened, being red-pilled, no longer being a sheeple, all of these, am I missing any big terms that we use?
You covered that, yeah.
All of that stuff comes with an inherent trap built right into it, and we've talked about this many times, and we'll talk about it again, or multiple traps in it. But one of the traps is that often we have awakened within the dream, and we are just as asleep about a lot of other stuff. Sometimes we even have an awakening that's real in the sense that we are now at a higher level of consciousness because we're aware that there's a scam. We're aware that there's an illusion. We're aware that something is afoot, that something is fishy, but we may have even woken up with the wrong, like some people woke up over flat Earth, and it's just not flat. But I don't care. Like, if you believe that, whatever. Like, I don't want to fight with you about it. But I'm just saying, I definitely don't believe that particular conclusion is correct.
You're being so nice.
And I know we dropped a bunch of y'all off just now. Please stick with me, because that's not my fight.
Yeah.
But what I don't want to discount is that the reason you came to that conclusion is because the Bible says if the foundations are removed, what will the righteous do? And the bottom has dropped out. And if you're not aware of it, if you're listening to this and we sound like, or I sound like a lunatic right now, you're in the phase, and we've all been there, that we talked about earlier, where the first several times you hear someone say something that challenges your presuppositions, you may just have a wall go up. You're in denial.
Yeah.
At this point in the information age, if you're not aware that there's a profound deception at the bottom of most of what we perceive, that's not because there's not. It's because you haven't found a way to metabolize that information yet.
Yep.
Or you've got your head under a rock. So most people that have made it this far in this episode are probably somewhere in the process of either being extremely confused and scared, mystified, angry, or very, very sure that they are like awake.
Yeah.
And all of those levels of the process come with their own traps built in. It's a minefield. And I feel that it's worth acknowledging to you. Let's say you are a flat earther and I've just offended you badly. But what I want to say to you that is affirming is you're right that this ain't right.
Yeah.
You're right that there's a massive deception. And hey, if you guys ever get past your meme stage and prove something,
Cool.
bro, I promise you I'm not I don't care if it's a ball or like genuinely I don't. What I agree with though is your distrust of Babylon.
Yeah.
Your distrust of the system.
And that ties so perfectly together because if the system has handed down the blueprint of what church, this is what will allow you.
This is deep, bro.
This is what will allow you to have. You can have, I mean, it's what the Romans did with the synagogues, and it was like, we'll let you have
Yes.
your places of worship.
Yes.
We'll let you assimilate. We'll let you gather. We'll even let you have your own form of currency for the temple tax.
Yeah.
We'll let you do all of that. But you're within the boundaries. And we're going to definitely dictate how and when and where you kind of operate from.
Yes.
And of course, they gathered the religious leaders to be the spokespersons, and they're still doing that today. Whenever there is a level of propaganda that needs to go forth, and they need to infiltrate certain communities,
Yes.
watch your news feeds, watch social media, you'll see the marquee preachers presenting the message because they are considered safe messengers. They are able somehow to bleed through defense mechanisms, boundaries that should be up. They're able to garner a level of trust and affection from people who would be very distrusting of the politician,
Right.
but very open to the preacher.
Right.
And so when the politician and the preacher, they start to come together, and that message starts to invade the pulpits, that's when that message becomes just so blurred and diluted, and the gospel no longer is the gospel anymore. It's something so foreign and so different that we don't even recognize it anymore.
Bro.
It works. It simply works. It was no accident that the Sanhedrin were so involved with Jesus being crucified. He was a complete threat to the balance of power that they had so meticulously curated and tried to maintain.
A lot of the people that you're talking about, the deceivers,
Yeah.
what you called the marquee preachers,
Yeah.
they are also the deceived. That doesn't excuse what they're doing.
Yeah.
There's a couple of them that they know who they are, but a lot of them don't. They are what they are is people who could be bought. You have to understand how hard the ego will work to justify something that greatly benefits you
Yeah.
in this life.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that I'm not saying that in any way, shape, or form to excuse them. I'm saying it to explain them. Because I think one thing that trips people up, I know it did me, is they hear people like us say things like this, and then they think, but I know so-and-so is sincere. Sincerity does not imply truth.
Oh, because you could be sincerely misguided, sincerely wrong, sincerely fill in the blank.
Yeah, and often it is sincerely so sold to the system because you're a beneficiary so directly. That's why I constantly tell people it's not the Jews, it's not the Catholics, it's not even the Illuminati. Yeah, it's people from all of those groups, but that's not who they are. It's the establishment.
Yep.
It's wherever you find systems, institutions, people that benefit directly from the status quo, that's where the devil hides, because that is the ecosystem that enables,
That's good.
right?
Yeah.
Somebody is at the top of this food chain, and the thing that's keeping them there is the ecosystem. That's why none of us hate rodents. I mean, we don't like them in our house, but most of us don't hate rodents, insects, whatever. But let them come too close, right? Then we call the exterminator. We're going to deal with that mess when it threatens to destabilize the environment that puts us at the apex. So I don't like snakes, but I don't care if they live way out there. But they are not finna live here.
Oh.
And a lot of us feel that way, and it's because that is the delicate stability of the system that keeps us safely ensconced at the top of the food chain. So we're not going to let that change, and we shouldn't. But now take that and apply it to a system of oppression or a system of greed or a system of power and control, and now look for who benefits directly from that system not being challenged, and you have found them.
There you go.
And as believers, we always have to remember that they work for somebody, and that is who we are called to engage.
That's why we are who we are.
Yeah. If I wind up, who's the Austrian billionaire Jewish guy that always bankrolls? I can never remember his name when I need it. He always bankrolls human misery.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I can never remember his name either.
It's going to bother me so bad because I'm going to remember it on the way home.
Yeah.
But y'all know who I'm talking about.
Like he's the, hold on.
He funded the
Black Lives Matter.
Yeah, and Winter of Despair in London. Somebody's yelling it at the screen right now.
I'm going to look it up. Go ahead.
And I can hear it. But if I meet him, I think he is the closest thing I've ever seen to the devil incarnate. But if I meet him and I don't share the gospel with him, I have failed in my commission. If there's any opportunity, if there's even a hint of an opportunity, because he is not my enemy.
Whew.
Paul went to Rome knowing they were going to take his head from his shoulders.
George Soros.
Soros.
Yeah.
If God graced me with an opportunity, he took money from my ancestors to put in the Deutsche Bank for the Third Reich. He was the enforcer that came around and got their money and their valuables so that they could be shipped off to the camps. Mm-hmm. But if God graces me with the opportunity to meet him, even though he's a turncoat of the worst kind and has done so much evil since then, that basically, I'm going to say allegedly, he did that. He's not my enemy. He definitely works for him, but he's not my enemy. And so that's an important distinction. But he is them. He represents the evil that is afoot in the world. And so why? Because he profits off this system so directly that he cannot afford to allow any injustice to be addressed. And so the point of all of that is to say, when we become aware of the game, there are so many directions that can go that don't lead to life. What do you do with awakening? Because the first thing most of us do is go check ourselves into the hospital. And that's because you probably are having a full mental breakdown.
What they call it, an existential crisis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank God for the hospital function. But what do we do then? After we get you stabilized, after we get you, what do we do then? Yeah.
Now, that's the question I want to hang in the air for people to really ponder. As they listen to this, I don't want people to rely on us to give that answer.
Easy answers.
Yeah. While we lie in Antikemi in opposition, I think one of the best things that we could do for people is to sound the alarm, allow their minds to come online as we're pointing them to the cross. But we want you to get connected to the source.
Right.
So that way, the same level of enlightenment, awakening that we're experiencing, and we're coming to the conclusion of us ripping off the IVs from the machines.
And deciding that even though we who work for the organized church profit directly from this system, we refuse to be so wed to that. That's not our source.
It's not our source.
So we refuse to be so attached to the mechanism that has enabled that career that we would deliberately hold people in captivity in their hospital room,
Yeah.
even though we now see that the hospital in many ways is a product of the system we're called to lie opposite to. We're not going to do that.
Nope.
There is going to be the Lord's church standing when the dust clears. But you and I have both had the conversation. I don't know what it will look like. And I think there has to be some of us that are okay with that. When you see these marquee preachers that you're talking about that are a key piece of the conditioning because they keep the evangelicals, as it were, in line with the overall agenda of the system. When we see them filling that role, we need to understand more often than not, that's not malicious, it's fear-based. They don't want to lose the thing that's putting bread in their children's mouths.
Come on.
But the thing is, at some point, we have to decide whether God is our source or not. And we have to decide. Moses was an initiate in Egypt. He was a member of the royal household. He had everything to lose by going Antikemi. But there have to be some people who decide that that's okay and do it anyway. And that's what we're trying to do. And that's what we're trying to. So when as you go to the Lord with this, just know we have some ideas about what some of the answers are to the questions we're raising. But we don't know really how that will look. That's what we're trying to get enough people mad enough about the right things that we can storm the gates of hell together. Did I cut you off?
No. That was.
I told you I was listening to a pump up song on the way in. Now, this song was released by Bob Dylan in 1979. So some of the particular cultural references, a little dated, right? But that makes it more powerful to me, not less.
Yeah.
Because it's crazy to me the way, in my opinion, he calls out everything that we're talking about decades before. I mean, either you or I, years before either you or I was alive. I wasn't conceived yet when he released this. And yet, everything he said could only be said to have been proven to be truer now. So the song is When You Gonna Wake Up. And here's the lyrics. God don't make promises that he don't keep. You got some big dreams, baby, but in order to dream, you got to still be asleep. When you gonna wake up? When you gonna wake up? Strengthen the things that remain. Okay, so that refrain right there, when you gonna wake up, when you gonna wake up, strengthen the things that remain, is the refrain between all the stanzas, right? But here's the stanzas. Counterfeit philosophies have polluted all of your thoughts. Karl Marx has got you by the throat. Henry Kissinger's got you tied up in the knots. So right there, he's calling out systems and, political figureheads that are warping your understanding of the world to align with a counterfeit system, right? You got innocent men in jail. Your insane asylums are filled. You got unrighteous doctors dealing drugs that'll never cure your ills. You got men who can't hold their peace and women who can't control their tongues. The rich seduce the poor and the old are seduced by the young. Adulterers in churches and pornography in schools. You got gangsters in power and lawbreakers making rules. All of this, between all of these, when you're going to wake up, strengthen the things that remain. Spiritual advisors and gurus to guide your every move, apropos of what you just said about not spoon-feeding people. Instant inner peace in every step you take has got to be approved. Now, that line right there, that one really lands for me. Spiritual advisors and gurus to guide your every move, instant inner peace, and every step you take has got to be approved. Anytime you find yourself constantly checking to see that your virtue signal is landing, that the other people in your awakened posse are on board with what you're saying, that your pastor is saying the thing that the influencers said that all the pastors should be saying, that all of that stuff, that's a warning sign to you that you're still in the dream, because you're still having to follow the rules of the system.
The system, exactly.
Even though you think it's not, but
inception.
if there's still control involved, right? Do you ever wonder just what God requires? Or do you think he's just an errand boy to satisfy your wandering desires? You can't take it with you, and you know that it's too worthless to be sold. They tell you time is money, as if your life was worth its weight in gold. There's a man on a cross, and he's been crucified for you. Believe in his power. That's about all you got to do. When you're going to wake up. So, yeah, here's something else that God's really been hammering on me about, and I feel the need to say it to the Lord's people while we've got your ear. God hates gossip and slander, tale-bearing. Now listen, bro, we need to be trumpeting this, because gossip, slander, and tale-bearing are some of the what's the word I'm looking for? Keystone characteristics of the current environment. Let me work on that for just a minute. A well-known influencer, and I'm not picking on any side here. This person has interesting things to say sometimes. But a well-known influencer has been being memed from Dan to Beersheba for the last few weeks for having said, apropos of discussing, I don't know if I'm going to name it in this episode, but a conspiracy that, if you're following the news, everyone it's obviously most people feel like something isn't being said right about a massive trauma that our culture just went through, right? And people basically don't believe most of the lines that are being said. And this influencer said, we don't know. She said, we don't know, but we know. Now, here's the thing. She's saying that a particular group of people are responsible for the murder, the assassination of who was a reasonably beloved influencer and very influential political kingmaker and all that in life, but who is so much larger than that now as a cultural icon, has been built into, it's approaching MLK kind of levels of like the institution that his name is being made now, right? And she's saying there's particular people that are at fault for his death, and her saying that is kind of splitting the world asunder and dividing the Christian conservative movement, ripping it in half. And can I just say, as a Jew living in America, and this is an experience I think you could have a lot to say about too, is getting my people in a world of hurt, potentially our lives endangered, because she has decided to incite the mob with pitchforks. And I'm not taking any position on whether she's right or not about who she thinks is responsible for that situation. It's totally, I don't know. There's things about it that I struggle to make sense of from the point of view of that theory. But the people that she's blaming have killed people.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's
left it like, right? Like,
where there's smoke, there's fire.
yeah. Listen, man. There's nothing to what she's saying.
Right.
But the point is, this statement of we don't know, but we know, it's very dangerous. A lot of people have gotten lynched off of that kind of thinking. A lot of people have gotten, condemned by kangaroo courts and killed without a fair trial over that kind of thinking. Wars have been started. That reminds me of, we have to go into Iraq. We have to kill this, dictator. We have to, why? Because of weapons of mass destruction. Weapons of mass destruction. And then we're just going to casually hear like 15 years and thousands of, never mind their lives, just American lives and all that later. And we're going to just hear casually, our bad. They were actually somewhere totally different. That kind of thinking, we don't know, but we know. Don't get me wrong. I get having a gut feeling. I get having a sharp instinct. All of that has its place, and you shouldn't gaslight yourself into believing that your gut isn't telling you something that it's telling you. But what you do with that is profoundly impacted by whether or not you claim to be a believer. Even just whether or not you want to be a decent human being.
Right.
But as a believer, you are in very dangerous territory if you are on board with that kind of thinking, coupled with being a part of the pitchfork mob and being willing to make sweeping statements. Because the Bible says out of 6 or 7 things that God despises, a big one is talebearing, gossip. Out of 10 commandments, one of them is thou shalt not bear false witness against your neighbor. What I don't think people understand, the Bible says a man's good name is worth more than rubies. Also, the Bible says that if you do something like adultery, you actually can't ever get your good name back because it rots your name. Well, what happens when people are accused of pedophilia? What happens when people are accused of murder? How are you supposed to get your name back from that? Because we all know bad news circles the world 7 times while good news is still tying its shoes, just like lies and truth. So what is a person supposed to do once that has been thrown out? It's attached to their name forever. And if you know, but you don't know, and you do that,
It's dangerous.
It's bearing false witness, it's talebearing, it's gossip, it's slander, but it's also murder. Hate. You are killing somebody's good name, which is as good many times as killing them. And so, as believers, if waking up and realizing that there's a big lie, there's a big deception afoot, is causing us to spin into that territory and partake in those mob mentalities, that is not what waking up is for. That is not coming to a knowledge of the truth. That falls under what Paul said to Timothy when he said in 2 Timothy 3, but realize this, that in the last days perilous times will come. People will be lovers of self, lovers of money, boastful, arrogant, revilers, disobedient to parents, ungrateful, unholy, unloving, irreconcilable, malicious gossips, without self-control, brutal, haters of good, treacherous, reckless, conceited, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, holding to a form of godliness or public religion, basically. What in the Second Testament, a New Translation calls civilized piety. It means projected righteousness, which is not in and of itself bad. It just has to have something real behind it to be good. Although they have denied the power of that religious form, that they hold to it. Avoid such men as these, for among those are those who enter into households and captivate weak women. Again, remember what we told you about Paul. When he talks about women and men, when he talks about marriage, a lot of times he's trying to point you to a much deeper, more profound truth.
Yeah.
He's talking here, sure, maybe to some extent, about people who would, go captivate women's minds while their husbands were away at work or whatever. But he's really talking about a voice that tugs at your emotions, your soul. While your spirit is out to lunch. Captivate weak women weighed down with sins, led on by various impulses. Listen, always learning and never able to come to a knowledge of the truth. So that's one of the things that I feel the Lord just driving at me, that we have to be making sure we say to the Antikemi kingdom, to the Antikemi nation, is if awakening or seeing through the illusion is causing you to get wrapped up in some of these things that God actually hates: tale-bearing, malicious gossip, irreconcilability, recklessness, being led by your emotions, you need to be aware that the reason you can't ever get to the bottom of the mysteries is because you're in this state where you can always learn but never come to a knowledge of the truth. And so what's really happening is that you woke up from a bad dream in a bad dream. You ever done that? You ever had a nightmare and dreamed waking up and telling someone that you had a nightmare, but you're still in it?
Yep. It's Inception.
So what's happened is you woke up inside the dream and you're in a resonance of fear. And so you're being led astray, and you're not going to be able to find the truth in that state. Paul told Timothy in 1 Timothy 6, if anyone doesn't agree with sound words, verse 3, those of our Lord Jesus Christ, and with the doctrine conforming to godliness, there's that word again, that civilized piety. He is conceited and understands nothing, but he has a morbid interest in controversial questions. In the Greek there, he's sick with controversy. I can relate to that statement so much that I have felt at times in the last few years almost like a spiritual flu. Like you're so weighed down with different opinions, different factions, different people screaming, virtue signaling, fear mongering. There comes a point where you become It actually becomes a mental illness, the fascination with controversial questions, a morbid interest in controversial questions and disputes about words, out of which arise envy, strife, abusive language. I mean, social media, anybody?
Sure.
But here's the one that actually riveted me: evil suspicions. And constant friction between men of depraved, that is, rotted, brain rot, rotted mind, and deprived of the truth. And here's this couples with what we just read from 2 Timothy, who suppose that godliness is a means of gain. But then he goes on and says, no, it's actually, if we recognize that we didn't bring anything into this illusion and we're not going to take anything out from it, then contentment becomes the gain that comes from godliness. So what Paul just gave us a major key here, because we have to understand that the forces driving that behavior in us as we awaken, both the external and the internal forces, what's driving that is that they have something to gain from us being caught in that loop. And so it's really ambitions and lusts that lie at the root of that whole cycle. And so it if you want to see another description of this kind of mindset, go look at Romans 1, where it says that if you are, you have seen God, you're aware of God, but you lose your gratitude for God. There's that contentment piece again, that you will wind up professing yourself to be wise and becoming a fool, and your mind will rot, and you'll fall into the lust and fear and ambition-driven cycles of depravity in this world. When are you going to wake up and strengthen the things that remain? So that, for me, is a central challenge around what we're talking about here tonight, is that the answer, and we're not going to give it to you spoon-fed, we're not going to give it to you on a silver platter, because it wouldn't help you then.
It wouldn't.
But the answer to what do we do with all of this awareness has to have to do with the purpose of God in our lives and in the earth. Because if we can recognize that the only value that could come out of seeing through the illusion is if we can actually opt out of it.
Yeah.
That right there. This whole thing of being like, oh, they're doing this, they're doing, I don't believe them. What good is it doing after a while? Like in the beginning, it serves the purpose of helping you see through the illusion, but very quickly it turns a corner and it starts trapping you back in the illusion, because now you just become the shivering, terrified, tinfoil hat person in the corner. And now you're just another player.
There's no point in waking up if you don't do anything about it. If you're not making a different choice, if you're not choosing what's right, forsaking evil, and not falling prey to the noise, man. It's all noise.
It's not enough to awake. Awake, O sleeper. Rise from the dead, and Christ will shine on you. Jesus said, Lazarus, come forth. Then he said, take off his grave clothes. So that's really what we're getting at here, I think, is, okay, so you're awake to whatever degree you are. Maybe be aware that you might not be as awake as you think you are. I know I keep finding that out. Mm-hmm. That's okay, too. But I'm awake enough that I'm aware that there's a great deception afoot, that there's a lot of lies being told, that I can't trust my eyes, but what do I do with that to avoid being just swept away in a tsunami of fear, anxiety, division, irreconcilability, rumors, gossip, slander? How do I avoid that? Well, there has to be a reason I'm awake. There has to be a way to rise from the dead. In other words, what we're saying to some extent is, hey, did you get your treatment? Did you get your meds? Did you get your blood pressure down? Did you get your breathing state? Okay, great. Let's get out of here. Let's blow this joint. Let's get you discharged.
Yes.
and let's go find what we came here for. Because you needed the hospital when you came here, but surely that's not why you're here. Like,
Can't be. And we're no longer presenting ourselves as that. So you're going to be either sorely disappointed,
right,
or you're going to be excited to actively find healing, hope, and pointed towards purpose.
right.
To do what we're called to do.
And there got to be doctors even in war. So if you feel really passionate about the hospital side of it, maybe you're called to that. That's awesome. We need that.
There's room for you for that.
Yeah.
It just cannot be the entirety of the Big C's church identity.
Right.
And we're fighting against that stigma. I love it. I think you said that so perfectly. It gives us something to like think about, chew on, to meditate on. Yeah, I want you all to drop in the comments how you are going to reassess what the church is to you and how we can participate differently in the army.
Yeah. And speaking as clergy, I apologize. Please forgive us. We're repented and repenting. We shouldn't have sold it this way, even though it did seem like one way to be a viable institution in this realm. There has to be a better way because this feeds the system too much.
Yep. Keep
We
on
love
living
you.
Antikemi.